Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 11th. It is 2 p.m., so I'm going to call this meeting to order. And let's see here, and just bear with me as we're going to just take a moment of reflection with regards to the agenda ahead of us. Very good, thank you. Around the table, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? No. Okay, very good. And just a reminder that if that does come up at any point in time, feel free to declare it as it comes up. Thank you. Number 4 on our agenda today, public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about a specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with legislative services by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, March 10th, which we're here by contacting dbruce@meaford.ca or by calling 519-538-1060. That's extension 1112. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes and deputations are limited to 5 minutes. And I see that we don't have any presentations, no deputations. We're good in that regard, I think. Yep. Thank you very much. Very good. So moving on, number 5 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. And the recommendation is that the minutes of the October 8th, 2025, November 20th, 2025, and January 14th, 2026 meetings of the Heritage Advisory Committee be approved as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor, please? Okay, David, thank you. Can I, Nancy, second? Thank you. Questions, comments with regards to the 3 items on this? No, looks good. Okay, so I'll call to approve those. All in favor? Great. Will, are you in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Okay. So you'll just abstain from voting. How would that work? Does Derek, that's fine? Yeah, guys. Okay. Okay, so that still carries. Very good. Thank you, guys. Next, heritage permit applications. We do not have any for this meeting. And so we'll move on to number 7 on our agenda, and that is the items for information. And this is going to be a fair amount of discussion, I'm hoping. So looking forward to this. And item 7A is the Cultural Heritage Project Planning for 2026. And Denise, I'll turn that over to you if you'd like to kick that off for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So some of the things in this report, I don't want to say they're old news, but they're written as though we don't have a budget yet. So I just want to let you know that the budget was passed with a small amount of money in there for some projects. It's not a lot. I think we put in $1,000. That's $1,000 we didn't have last year. So I think that's a good thing. So just to let you know that we do have some money to work with. And so the purpose of this report was to outline just the kind of differentiate between the statutory and non-statutory, much like we heard from Bert at the training, but also maybe put some ideas on the table of things you might want to consider doing as the non-statutory, probably more of the fun stuff versus just looking at permits. I know that's what we think too when we're doing projects and planning. The stuff that we're doing proactively seems more fun than just responding to permits or applications and things. So I put a selection of things out there, and I wanted to note that I brought with me Jessica Kenyon today, partly because we were both asked if Meaford had a Heritage Awards program, and we had to say, no, we don't have a Heritage Awards program, but we could think of a couple of projects that probably deserve an award, and we wanted to put that as one of the options for you. So what I provided to you was some ideas of things, and we're certainly open to your ideas. I just wanted to kind of pique your interest and get you thinking a little bit about what some things could be if you wanted to do some proactive projects. And these are things where you may want to break out into, you know, one person goes away to do some research or 2 people go away to do some research if you have the capacity to do that and come back with information in another month. Those sorts, or in 2 months or whatever, for stuff like these types of projects. Or you might just want to talk about them in the meeting and, you know, ask if staff resources could be provided to do some of these. So on the back, I also gave you some examples of proactive websites that other municipalities have, and they're not all big cities. Obviously, the one is a pretty substantial group of heritage properties that they have in the city of Kingston, because Kingston's, obviously a very historical city in our province. So certainly they've put a lot of effort into their online map tool that they have, but it seems to me like something that we could probably do without, breaking the bank or wearing staff out. We already have a GIS system internally, so to create a second tool is actually very easy for our GIS team, and this would then maybe backfill some of the data. So for example, if we wanted the district to be its own more live map, maybe when someone clicks different properties or projects within or things going on that either have heritage value but maybe aren't designated, like Beautiful Joe House, and maybe it just says something about that, but it just says it's not designated. It could be more information about what the district is, so that when someone can click a property and actually it'll say district and designated under Port 4, like Meaford Hall. It could be background information, like depending on, it could be, when I say all this, I think there's ability to do it as a work in progress. So we create a map that may just show the district and the stuff that's designated. Like, for example, the Bayview house that we did just a few years ago, Leith Church and, cemetery, that's designated as well. And then of course the other two in town plus the district, they could just be identified with not a lot of detail. And then over time we could add to it. And then I provided just a few other examples of things that, like, there's other types of maps out there that do that. Just that. Some of them are really, really detailed and contain, you click the property and it pops up with a whole history with pictures and everything. And some of that stuff already exists on Grey County's website to some degree. They have quite a bit of history mapping in their GIS system. So I thought that was a good option to talk about, because it would make it a little bit more interactive for the public to look up things in our community. And then the other one was the Heritage Awards. We think that maybe that might be something that may not come every year. So maybe not every year someone does a Heritage Award project. But we also thought if we started a Heritage Awards program, we could still go back and recognize things that happened in the last few years that were really significant. I had a couple in mind myself that I'm sure other people would be like, the first thing that pops into their head would probably be similar to me. And those would be things that we could recognize somebody without really spending a lot, but create a plaque or a certificate or something like that and do a little ceremony to present that. And I don't think it's something that's extremely expensive, but it would then highlight the really incredible work somebody's done on their property or to promote heritage in our community. I was just trying to think. I thought I had a third one. Now I'm just going to remember. The plaque program was the other one. So we have had a plaque program in the community before, but it was more related to the 100, like the centennial. So a lot of people got it in the 70s. That's pretty common in Ontario, that people got plaques for heritage homes back then. It looks like quite a few people in our area still have those programs, and it's something that I think we could do if on request, if someone asks for a plaque, and then it could be provided to them as part of, their house is 100 years old or some other criteria that we set that makes sense, right? So I wanted to put that out there. So I gave examples of programs that you can look into. And what my thought would be is put this kind of report together for you to get you thinking, but not expect you to come up with anything today except conversation, good chat about it. And then perhaps next month you'll have time to maybe even look into some of these if you have time on your own to click into, like, for example, Town of South Bruce Peninsula's program. I kind of linked it there so you could take a look at it. I've given examples of other ones, Brampton and Guelph Mossa, Guelph Mossa is not a great big place either. So it makes sense. These are not big cities that have programs that it would be hard for us to do. Some places they charge the person for that. So if they want the plaque, the person basically buys the plaque. So then it has no cost to the municipality. Other places provide these, maybe they get a deal on plaques and it doesn't cost too much because you're getting a volume. Those are the three kind of low hanging fruit that I thought of. And then on the back, So on the very back page, just because I know not everybody maybe wants to be clicking and opening GIS sites, I just gave some screenshots of what some of those GIS sites look like, just to give you a bit of a quick and dirty look. So when you look at the one that's in Orangeville, there's quite a few properties. Some of them are not designated, but they are of interest and maybe have a big history about them, but they haven't been designated, but that still has value, right? So you still want to know like, hey, this was the original town hall, or the founder of the town lived here or something like that. So it gives quite a bit of a background of each property. They were very fun to look at, so I really enjoyed putting this report together for you. Jessica was here really just as a backup in case there were questions about the Heritage Awards, if you wanted to like flesh that out further, because we do other awards programs, including volunteer awards and business awards and things like that. Yeah. Do you want to add anything, Jessica?
Hi, through you, Mr. Chair. I think there's lots of ways that we can also include and engage the community. On the website currently, you can nominate and recognize a business owner that has an achievement over 5 and then 15, 20 years. So I think there could be an opportunity to engage the community with a heritage project as well, and then that could come through the committee, and then you can take those application nominations and then decide if you believe that they could be an award or certificate. And I bring the business certificates to council, and they're presented at council, and the business owner comes, and it's a really great way to engage with the businesses. So it could be the same with the owner of the property as well. Or if it was a big project, we also could do like, a ribbon cutting even with council coming if it's a new renovation. So there's lots of ways that we can engage with the community and do something fun and different too. Like there's so many amazing buildings in our community that deserve the recognition. So happy to help and think of creative ways that we can do that together.
Very good. Thank you. Questions or comments around the table for anyone? David, go ahead.
Just have a comment. I absolutely agree with the buildings that we have in town and in, again, other towns. So much history, and maybe they don't actually qualify as a heritage designated property, but a property of historic interest. So I think, to put that on the map, and to have, again, the history of the first doctor in Leith, or the first, a lot of properties around that I see being fairly new to the area. And I'm sure through conversation with yourselves, where you have the resources of a suggestion like, hey, let's have a look at this property, and we can do some background that's, works out, as well as with the awards, the plaques, I should say. I think that's fantastic. I mean, many people like to have a little plaque on the corner of their house that that says this was built in 1888 and was formerly, so-and-so's building. So I'm all with that. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Nancy, go ahead. Thank you.
Can you give us some examples of the awards that have taken, or award suggestions that have taken in the past that you think would qualify for this type of award?
And through you, Mr. Chair, I don't want to prejudice the committee too much, but I was thinking about, like, I know there's a couple of buildings under renovation right now. So if, for example, because I don't want to say I think it should be this building, but the one that we were asked about was Station 87 building. So it was asked by somebody that was involved in some of the project, like as a professional, to just know whether or not there was a program. So because that building went under such extensive renovation, and it's now still here for us all to enjoy. And that was the kind of the point of the district to begin with, right? The plans and all of that, to ensure we have a framework to protect those properties and allow for adaptive reuse. There's probably other ones that maybe even aren't in the district. An example would be the church on the corner of Nelson and Cook Street, which has been made into a condominium. I mean, that was before the district, and it's not in the district, but it's a great adaptive reuse. And now instead of having it torn down and turned into something else, it was retained. So those are examples of a built form project, but there could be other types of projects that could be considered in that further heritage in the community, whether it's somebody that's created some kind of I was going to say the Tidbits project comes to mind for me because it furthers the heritage of the community outside of things like designated buildings. So it's more of that historical context of the area. What was this area what does this used to be for? Why is it changed like this? And it gave you all of that background. It was interactive. So it was a very unique tool. Those are the kinds of things that came to mind for me. We know there's a few other buildings that people have renovated and they've been quite lovely, including what would be the Lovebirds building. That one had been covered up as Peter's Restaurant for decades upon decades, and nobody realized that the beautiful brickwork was underneath because it just had been covered. So, and because it hadn't been actually destroyed, it was under there when somebody chooses to retain it and keep it in good shape. I think it was I want to remember, I think it was Andrew's Roots originally, but I can't remember what it was originally. But when that building was originally renovated, it was quite the surprise. So someone putting the extra effort in could be another example of a project. They don't have to be all big, but those are ones that come to mind for me. There's probably some other downtown buildings that have done. Mary Golden is a great one too, where they've done some great restoration of the storefront. I'm sure others could jump with some even better ones, but those are the ones that come to mind just off the top of my head. But I'm sure there are other examples of non-built form ones too, like Tidbits, but something else that somebody has done in the community that they could get award for. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I think that these project suggestions are terrific. It helps elevate the profile of heritage in Meaford, and not all municipalities are fortunate enough to have a heritage district or heritage buildings. And so this is something that we really should celebrate. We should have fun with and just keep that sort of more constant in the public eye. So it's something that people can take a lot of pride in, which we all do. One thing I really do like is for instance, with the Heritage Awards program, I'm particularly attracted to that because I think it is a great opportunity for us to tie in sustainability. And, you know, we could have certain awards like a Heritage Sustainability Award or like an Adaptive Reuse Award. Denise, like your comment about the church. These are tremendous opportunities to sort of promote and encourage these sustainable initiatives, sustainable restorations and things of that nature. So of course, the most sustainable building is the one that's already built. So it's in our best interest to make sure that the heritage buildings that we have are being used and they're kept. So I think that something like that to build on to something like the Heritage Awards would be just absolutely tremendous. And it might be motivation for the owners of these properties to consider these, not necessarily that you would do it just for the award, but having that pride of ownership and the recognition that comes with it. And that's something that, you know, we can all celebrate together. So I think these are just tremendous suggestions. And between today's meeting and the next Heritage meeting, all of us can take away some thoughts and ideas. And, you know, we'll see what we can do with regards to making some recommendations for what projects we could realistically complete in this calendar year. So that's wonderful, and I appreciate you bringing this report forward. This is these are some of the more fun things that we can work on as heritage. Any other questions or comments on this particular item before we move on? David, go ahead.
Just one comment there. If I've read somewhere correctly, there's also a financial incentive for people to renovate, to retain their heritage building tax a tax break. Did I read that in something somewhere?
Yes,
I
Denise.
would say through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. So we don't currently have a heritage tax incentive program. However, our community improvement plan is a tool that many of the downtown owners have taken advantage of for getting grants for facade improvements and things like that. So Station A7 certainly did it. I believe, I was gonna say the most recent one was probably the one that we did just 2 years ago. The Dam Pub was one, and I think La Pooch Hills. Oh, I was gonna say, but the one that we just did at the heritage permit level would be Tim Van Dolder's project. I think it's gonna be a Wild Wing, if I remember correctly, but it came to the Heritage Committee for a heritage permit first and then went to apply for grants. So that facade design was approved by the committee. Even though it's brand new, because what was there wasn't heritage really. It's in the district, but it's not restoring, but it's putting it into a little bit more compatible design from what was there last time. So, because it was a little bit tired. And so the committee, the person is taking advantage of the fact that we have community improvement grants at the same time. So, and there's heritage related ones. So I believe that's what Station 87 used for some of theirs. So the adaptive reuse and maintaining all of the heritage attributes is then rewarded through that grant program if they apply.
And also to build on that, David and Denise, it'll be an item later on as well, but the ACO has the Heritage Helping Housing Grant, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, but they can provide some funding support for adaptive reuse of heritage buildings and things of that nature. So there are support tools out there for residents. Very good. Okay. And yes, Nancy, please go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can get the young people involved and being excited about heritage. I know with the film festival, the Meaford International Film Festival, the highlight to me is always the youth kind of presentations, their films that they make. So I'd just like to see the young people kind of get excited. I don't know whether it means going into schools or whether they can have projects or whatever, but I would just like to see them more aware of the heritage of Meaford.
Great suggestion. Go ahead, Denise.
I was gonna say thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a really great suggestion. What I would I think what I'll recommend here is that if I've written that one down as like, what could we do? So to me, that could be a fourth item would be like community outreach. We might want to do outreach to others as well, but there may be a way that the committee can do outreach to the school or a community group where kids are, and it could be through another facility that we have, or it could be through the school, like I said, some other way. And so I'm going to maybe do a little bit of research on that between now and the next meeting when we talk about this again and see if I've got some other ideas that maybe some other municipalities are doing that we can try to not reinvent the wheel too much, but we could like maybe see what's worked. Because definitely I think that's a great thing is to engage young people in some of because, you know, they have to be part of this committee at some point because we can't all be on it forever. So, right. So I think this is a great idea. And in the summer, there's obviously more opportunities to see people outside at different events as well. Like whether we at Summerfest or at like Canada Day or any of these things have our own booth or something where we provide more information to people who are interested about heritage or try to get them interested about heritage. That's another option. So we've certainly done that with other projects.
Excellent and very good suggestion. Well, hopefully we can do something with that as well. All right, last call for comments on this particular item. Everybody good? Will, yes, go ahead. Thank you.
We had an idea in Collingwood. It was called Doors Open. What happens is all of the buildings that have plaques on the weekends that we did that, there was more than Collingwood. There was about, I think, 3 towns. So people would drive around and any of the heritage buildings, they were allowed to go in and have a look around and stuff like that. Yeah, we might want to contact them and find out whether we can be part of that because we're not that far away from Thornbury and they probably have something like that there too. Has anybody contacted Thornbury to see if whether they have this sort of thing happening there or no?
So this is a great suggestion. So I'm pretty familiar with Doors Open and it is a big like Ontario wide thing, but definitely the people within proximity are in a good position to partner because it's drivable within a reasonable time. I haven't contacted Thornbury, but that's another one I've written down that would be a good way to create some interest in heritage. And people are always really curious about these buildings that they don't get to go into all the time. And like Meaford Hall is pretty open, but there's other buildings that people may have that they could get a little bit of a window into. I think last year, I'm trying to remember who was in Doors Open in Owen Sound, but um, it is a well-known project that I think a lot of people would recognize from other communities. So I think it would be a good one for us to look into, see if we can partner with some either, yeah, Owen Sound, Thornbury, Markdale, other places really close. So I'll get back to you on some of that for next time too.
Excellent. Collaboration is excellent. So I think that's a great suggestion. Well, thank you. So, okay, if there's no other further comments from the table here, I will move on. And, oh, sorry, Derek. Yes.
Just get a mover and a seconder to receive it for information.
Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you so much.
Apologize for that. Thank you. Could I get a mover and seconder to receive this item for information purposes, please? Moved by Will. And can I get a seconder? David, thank you very much. Great. And all in favor to receive this item? Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so next item, 7B, we have the Heritage Conservation District Plan Update, draft changes. And could I get a mover and seconder to bring this onto the floor as well, please? Thank you, Nancy, David. There's only so many of us, so we're going to be putting our hands up a lot, so don't be shy, guys. Okay, so this is a little bit of a bigger document, and I'll let Denise take the reins here, and let's kick this one off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, this one is a lot more to get through. So I first want to just let you know, I have readjusted, so it is on the back. I've adjusted, even though the report maybe not reflect all of it, the timeline. And we're going to keep it not too tight. I think originally I was like, can we get this by March before we get into other types of projects? But obviously we aren't able to do that and we can't rush this. So the couple of things I wanted to highlight, one, I've updated our website with these drafts so that they are available for people who are subscribed to the page. I've already had some comments from a couple of people who pay attention to that page and saw that those documents were posted and have given me some feedback on the draft. So even ahead of the public meeting, or ask questions about why things were changing the way they were changing. So I just wanted to back up a little and to remind you that we started this project in 2021 through an RFP process. And the consultant that was working on it worked through drafts, had a public meeting with us. There was, a challenges and opportunities report. There was quite a lot of work done, and then it seemed to have stalled for whatever reason. So when I spoke with the consultant, it looks like we had a complete draft, and all I did with that document was added a little bit of my 2 cents into there. I noticed that the chart at the end had a few properties missing. So we've added those in. These are ones that are in the district that should have been on the inventory, but were missing for some reason. We also updated ones that had been demolished for some reason or had been vacant lots, but now had properties on them, so that when we're reviewing this inventory, you can see, oh, that's not a heritage building, it's a new building, and just make sure that that is correct. We added some things about additional residential units, which are those, some people call them tiny homes or garden suites, the additional units that you're allowed, that everyone pretty much is allowed to have on their residential property now, to kind of suggest that they be less prominent than maybe we might have them be in other areas of the community. So in the district, we would want them to be either at the back, so an addition on the back of the house, or the home, the detached home would be in the backyard. And just to help minimize the change that would be perceived from the street in the district. We updated to be a little bit stronger in language about our demolition policies. We put in new policies about height that suggest maximum height in different areas of the downtown. And I would love to have feedback and some commentary from you guys about that. If you have really had a chance to think about what that might, how that might happen in actuality if we change the height that's permitted now. So right now we have a 3-story maximum in the downtown area. This plan, based on what the consultant has provided, would limit one side of the street. So where the Leaky Canoe Block is, I'll call it Leaky and Dam Pub, that would be limited to 2 stories because it's always been 2 stories. The other areas would be 3 stories, with the other exception being Meaford's Halls block, which right now is mostly vacant and parking area. They've suggested we would allow, and I'm not sure exactly if that was if it were redeveloped and if the municipality decided to declare it surplus or build a building there, that it could be 4 stories, because there's nothing really on that side, and it would be in respect of the Meaford Hall building, which is a fairly tall building. So they provided us the map that I gave to you at the end of the report. Those are some things that are pretty significant changes. The other was to create a bit of an area understanding of each kind of like sub area of the district. So there's like a commercial area to kind of more of a residential area, that sort of thing. And that is also in a map at the end. So I believe that is Appendix 2. They're calling them different names just to help us understand how we might want these areas to build out where they have significant amount of vacant space, because we don't have very detailed policies about that right now. In the plan, I've allowed for us to build those policies later. And the reason why that is not, we don't have the policies yet to say, oh, this is what we want it to look like, is because, as Brandon will know, we've asked council to allow us to get a more comprehensive downtown master plan, which would be kind of a harbor downtown master plan. Because the harbor is so vacant and so much isn't there, and it's a lot of just gravel open space, we want to make sure that whatever happens there is really well planned and really fits in and leverages the best use of those spaces. And it will take quite a bit of engagement of the community and research to do that. And so what I've done is kind of put the space in the plan for the Heritage District that we could build more detailed policies about new development, and not necessarily have those yet. And that master plan would help build that in. And then this plan would actually fit within the master plan. It would be kind of a component. So like the Heritage District would be a component. And it wouldn't necessarily replace it all, because this is a legislated tool, right? So I think the reason for having those area subgroups is to help us with those policies in the future. So the areas that are residential adjacent to the district, we have a full understanding of those, and the mixed use areas, how they could evolve over time and still respect the district. And then the other things I wanted to highlight, there was some like, just to let you know about some of the vacant lands. Now, they gave me a map of vacant lands that they'd created. Some of those properties are either in development now, or there was a couple that actually had buildings on them. So don't get too attached to this drawing. I will be updating it. So that one is, I didn't want to change this too much because I made the report and linked to everything and had all this stuff going. And I thought, if I change it midway, I'll just wait till we speak and then we'll start editing things. So in that last map, which was, I think is still part of Appendix 2, the last page has a bunch of properties highlighted in kind of a highlighted yellow. I don't think I'm looking over at Will, not sure if his is in color, but it's highlighted in yellow with red around it. Most of those are vacant properties that could be developed. There's a few that either have building permits going right now, like for example, the Sarley Collingwood mixed use development is in, you probably have seen if you've been downtown, it has a construction fence. They're digging now. So they're making way on their project. So that one would be one that would be removed. On the corner of Bayfield and Collingwood, there is actually a little home there. So that one's not actually vacant. But I think the purpose of the map was to really highlight that there is a bunch of vacant lands and we don't want them to just be like, us, we'll end up kind of like what happened with some of the other ones where we don't have a lot of policy to review to determine what's the best fit on vacant properties. And so having more detailed policies about new development would really help probably you as a committee, advising council and staff, and ourselves as well as staff reviewing and helping developers in that early stage, having a better policy framework. So I think this update gives a little bit more ability for us to have some more future pieces that go with the district. That was kind of the main reason of that. And then otherwise, what I was thinking was what we could do is, in the next little while, if anyone wants to go away and read sort of the red line version, it is linked in the report. It's a lot to read, but I get that you may want to scan, look for things that you're the most interested in, see how those fit with the changes. Maybe give feedback. You can give it directly to us through our generic email, planning@meaford.ca if you would like, or just whoever you normally talk to, even the chair or anybody who's, through our agenda packages and stuff like that, whoever you usually email. Just get us whatever feedback you've got in the meantime. And then if we're going out to a public meeting, we still have lots of time to refine because we really want to hear from the public about whether they have any thoughts about this. The last public meeting only had one person speaking. So I'm really hoping we'll have more people, more interest this time. Because not hearing a lot doesn't mean we're doing great. It just sometimes means people didn't know about the meetings or weren't excited about it. So hopefully we'll get more interest. And the main point that I really wanted to just drive home with you is that in speaking with the consultant, they were really cautioning that we didn't want to change the plan too much. Like we don't want to change the boundary of the district or be super permissive or start changing it really, really significantly, because that would be considered a whole new district plan. So just doing an update is one thing, but the way that we go through the process of engagement and approval is slightly different if we're doing a whole new district. I also wanted to let you know that they've reminded me that the province has made a space in the Ontario Heritage Act to give us some regulation about these districts, but that hasn't happened yet. So they've got a placeholder. So it would be great for us if we could get our district updated before they do that in case it conflicts with what we are trying to do. I know the province has made it a lot harder to put in a new district than it used to, and that would require us to actually look at every single property in the district and ensure that the right percentage of them are actually heritage buildings. And if they're not, then the district wouldn't be able to be approved. So that's one of the reasons I've been struggling not to change the district update too much, that it becomes a new plan. So that was the one caution they had when we last spoke with the consultant. Otherwise, we're pretty much finished with what we have from the consultant. And my main reason is for doing some work is just to make sure it meets our accessibility guidelines as we go forward. Some of the photos and things like that maybe need to be a little bit bigger and placed differently. The text needs to be bigger. I tried to do that in the draft to date, but more works needs to be done. And then when we have that document in a really good shape, which should be in the next month or so, and we issue the public meeting notice, it would be great to have a really nice, attractive looking draft so that the public can read it and it's digestible. If you have any feedback, I know it's a lot to look at in a meeting like this to say, oh, I read the whole thing, here's my 50 comments. But if you have them and you want to give them like in writing. That's how we got them last time when we were doing the drafting last time, is some of the committee members just wrote, here's my 10 things I saw, or because it's a lot to go through in the meeting. So I'm happy to incorporate those as feedback, that just like the public feedback. So we had some really good comments already that we've already started to make some updates with.
Very good. Thank you very much for that summary. So I'll toss that out to the committee here. If anyone's questions, comments. Will, did you have something you want to say?
It's not really about that. It's about the ice jam that happened on the river.
Okay.
Weren't we looking at a building beside the library that was in the heritage? Yeah. Yeah. So that was in the heritage. You saw that probably, then most of the people in Meaford were down there. Now is that really in a floodplain or not? Do you know?
Denise, please go ahead.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So it's an interesting one. So this will be an extraordinary time where we can kind of say, yeah, so we knew there was some potential for ice jams in that area because it's happened before. So because that is well known, their study work did look at whether or not it's floodplain. It's considered a 2-zone area, which is a little bit complicated to explain, but it means it's a combination of a floodplain and the adjacent area, which they call the flood fringe. To us, it means that the Conservation Authority requires the first level to be flood-proofed. And it also excluded a corner of the property in the old plan, which was closer to where you saw some of the really significant flooding, right where the edge of the motel is, because that other property used to be in the project area. That area wasn't allowed to, when all of that was to be torn down, that area couldn't have buildings at all in the new plan. Now that it's only 2 properties, it's still supposed to be flood proofed at the first level. So there would be no openings or doors on the level 1. And the level 1 would be visible on the side where you saw the flooding happening, or where the water and the ice were flowing overland. That side would just have a wall. The other side where the entrance would be, which would be up on Sykes Street, is quite a bit higher and would have some windows and then their garage door going down into that first level. Interestingly, it's supposed to have a second level of underground parking, but it was certainly not something that the committee was looking at as part of the Heritage District plan and the permit, but it is something that's under review as part of the engineering review, like whether or not it's feasible and all of that, and reviewing the technical reports.
Yeah, follow up, Will?
I had a question. The end of that property, is there a distance between that and the river?
So Mr. Chair, so I believe is the question about so there's a street known as Berry Street between the property and the river. And that street still is, I'll call it on the books, I guess, and it's a municipal right of way there. Right now, there are some cars that drive it in there a little bit, and certainly you can walk all the way up to Sykes Street. So the building there's a little bit of a notch where the building has, that property actually purchased part of Berry Street, just a small piece, and then most of Berry Street's still there, even though for a while there this weekend, you couldn't see Berry Street at all. Because I was one of the people over there, so we were all gawking a little bit and taking photos and really looking at the extraordinary circumstance that we had on the weekend.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions or comments from anybody else? Are you good? Okay. So Denise, if I may, I have a couple of questions with regards to the height policies. I'd just be curious, maybe you could walk us through it with the consultant. What sort of metrics, or how did they evaluate what their recommendations were for ideal height? Maybe you could just walk us through that so we have an understanding of their mindset.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I suspect because the only two blocks that were changing, so if you look at on my report, it's page 7. So I'm not sure what it looks like. It's the whole project, but it's the second map that's in the package, I believe. Or yeah, second map. Okay. So the first section, which is between Parker and Collingwood is unchanged. So it's the 3 stories that would be permitted now. The rest of the municipality has other policies. So the urban area outside of the downtown is allowed to be up to 5 stories, but we've limited to 3 stories in the district. So that first block is unchanged. And this is only to that sort of really true downtown area, not to these other side streets. They are allowed to be 5 stories. This is what's changing is the middle block, which is between Collingwood Street and Nelson. And I'd love to say I got totally in their minds about why. What I understand that on the west side of the street, they're recommending that it doesn't change height from where it is now and that we don't let anybody go past the 2 stories. So I think they don't want to see someone propose a 3rd story on top of the leaky canoe or something, because that would really change the look. On the side of the road where Meaford Hall is on the east side between Collingwood and Nelson Street, I believe it may have been staff driven because we were looking at highest and best use of some of those lands. Could it be something else? I am not really sure because not everybody that was here at the time when this was drafted is still here. But I suspect it's that reason that they were thinking, hey, this could be 4 stories because it'll be adjacent to a 4-story building and because of all kinds of reasons. I don't think there's anything, and I don't believe there's any proposals right now for the municipality to sell off that block and allow it to be redeveloped. It is used as a very busy parking lot and goes with Meaford Hall right now. So I mean, if the committee and the public or council have questions about why we would change that block to 4 stories instead of 3 stories or something else, it's all definitely the type of feedback that we want to have about what the others think about the idea. Because I don't think there was a lot of background why this was proposed. This is what they came up with. But my suspicion is because some of the other buildings in the area are already allowed to be a different height, they saw this as a vacant area that could allow for a little bit more change. I don't think it's not a high pressure area for redevelopment right now because we're using most of those resources pretty much to their fullest, other than maybe some of the, open space. So it's not something that I can totally answer.
Okay, no, and that's very helpful information. Thank you. One of the next things I'd like to ask you about is the policy with regards to demolitions and things of that nature. And so my understanding is that demolition may occur if the chief building official determines the structure is unsafe, which is reasonable. So I just want to get your comments. Do you feel that the demolition policy is solid enough that it'll help us protect heritage buildings, as much as possible? Like, just for instance, I was doing a little bit of research and I see that some heritage districts require proof that rehabilitation is not feasible, or there has to be evidence that structural repair cannot identify or cannot address safety concerns. And that might all be something that the chief building official does, but maybe you could just comment on that a little bit. And then further to that is, how do we protect against somebody, say for this, an example, that owns a heritage building, but just leaves it in a state of disrepair, where at one point it was completely restorable, but purposely neglects the building with the intention of demolishing it, which of course is a loss for heritage preservation. So how do we make sure that the policy really safeguards us as much as possible?
That's a great question, Mr. Chair. So thanks for that. First, the one tool that we have that some places don't have is our property standards bylaw, which has heritage section in it, which is, as we heard in the training, unusual. I don't think what we heard in the training was anybody else had that. So that allows us to work with a property owner, not just to take down things that are unsafe. For example, if someone had some brickwork that was falling off, it wouldn't just say rip off the brickwork. It would require them to work within the district plan. So that's one tool that we have. The other one is to just look at some of the other policies within the plan that say that the main purpose of this is to not have demolition. So we could strengthen some of this. For sure. I know in here it's saying that if somebody is doing a demolition, they'd still have to have their heritage impact assessment. We require heritage impact assessment to be that's not an engineering report. So sometimes people get confused, and when this has happened even within our committee, especially when we were babies and still learning to do the committee, is that people think, well, I'm just going to write a report saying this building's not great anymore. An engineer saying it's no good. That's not enough. So we need a heritage specialist, so a heritage architect or planner to give an assessment, because they often see it a lot differently than someone who's just saying, it's not really feasible to do this. I don't recommend you repair this, which is a totally different question. So a structural engineer or a person looking at it just from a safety perspective might just say this should come down, whereas a heritage impact specialist would say, what will the damage be to the district if this comes down? And if it did have to come down, what should go in its place? So examples that we've had on other ones, like with the downtown strip, like where the refillery and I guess all the way along, there's 5 buildings all the way down to the wool shop. That section is there is a project to tear those down and build condominium and commercial mixed use. In that, they had to retain some of the facade work. They can't just tear down all of it because some of it's damaged and some of it's in good condition. And so because of that, there were rules in place that were put into the original approval to say, you can do this, but not this. And that's why it's because of the heritage impact assessment. We even had that peer reviewed. So because it is a heritage building, the heritage impact assessment was peer reviewed by our own specialist, which disagreed somewhat with the information that had been provided at the time. So those are the sort of things that we would require everyone to do. There were a couple of examples in the past where we didn't do as good of a job as we could have on that. If somebody is going ahead and rebuilding something, and those buildings need to be torn down. An example would be the Collingwood Street one. They had a bunch of houses, so the Collingwood Street mixed use. The reason that one was approved at way ahead was only because of the safety concerns of those buildings. They had been boarded up for some time and they were being compromised repeatedly. And that was considered a safety issue, but it was slotted for redevelopment, which the committee had already pretty much supported. But normally we wouldn't want somebody to just tear something down and leave a hole. So anybody needs to have a plan for what's to happen next. And there has to be a very time limited approval if a demolition is happening. If there's examples of strengthened language, by all means, give that to us as feedback. If you'd like to see some additional paragraphs or sentences in there, we can do that as well.
Okay, that's a great example, and I'm comforted to know that we have some safeguards in place in between now and when we receive sort of a final draft of this in the next several months, then perhaps there might be an opportunity for us to think about some stronger wording. My next question here is, before I go into this, I don't want to be hogging the mic too much. Does anybody else want to jump in? Everybody's good for now? Okay. Yes, Will, go ahead. Thank you.
I had a question. That used to be, I think the building you're talking about on Collingwood Street. I think the Straw Hat is actually, that's the name of the company, is doing some work on that building.
So through Mr. Chair, would that be the Capitol building that Mr. Smith is talking about? The one that used to be a theater?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I believe they are working in that building.
So then they would have got a permit from us.
So Mr. Chair, through you, I'm not sure what permits the owner of that building has, because I don't review the permits. The buildings beside the Straw Hat is the Collingwood mixed use development. They had permits they have a permit for construction on their side. So they're building like 3 buildings, I guess, like apartment building with ground floor commercial and 2 townhouse blocks. But the Straw Hat one, I'm not sure what stage they're in and if they're just doing some work inside to determine what they need to do. I'm not sure what stage they're in.
Thank you, Denise. And to Will, if you want to learn more about this offline, we can get you in touch with the right people that can provide you that information. Thank you. But on the subject of permits, my next question, Denise, is with the community planning permit system, I understand that it's presented in a way to streamline approvals. So I just might like to get your comment on whether you feel that this would either strengthen or reduce sort of heritage scrutiny, like would this be for the minor permit approvals that heritage doesn't see, or how would this permitting system impact the decisions or the responsibilities of the committee itself?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we saw it as a streamline for things like a variance, the permit for a minor case and site plan all rolled into one. So that's how it's used for some things. Other places, people are using it, some municipalities are using it at full bore on everything. Others are doing it for certain types of things. And we just wanted to put that in place to allow for us to create a program in the future if we desire. We're a little ways away from being able to launch something like that because we'd have to have some policies around that in the official plan as well. But it would create a streamlined process. So people who would have normally 3 applications would only have to do 1 application. And for the variance type of idea, we would have limiting factors of how far we would be allowed to approve within that. And then it would have to go to council or to the committee of adjustment. So for example, if it was a 10% or 15% change or something like that, maybe could be approved by an internal group like staff. And then they would also review the site plan and potentially a minor heritage permit at the same time. I can think of examples where that might make sense, where there isn't a lot of significant change on the outside of a building, where we do normally come to the committee, but maybe it's minor enough that it doesn't need to. If that was something that the committee recommended we decide to do, it would have to be something that we would change within the plan and create a whole program around it. And that would take the place of potentially up to 3 applications that they normally would go through. So if it's not, I'm thinking a downtown building with just doing a renovation wouldn't be site plan control type of application, but might need a variance and a heritage permit. Or if it was a brand new building, it might be all 3.
Thank you very much. That answer is very helpful. My next question, sorry, I've got a bunch of questions on this. With regards to the public consultation and to your comment that at the last public meeting, there was only 1 resident. So how do we plan to sort of get this in front of more people's eyes? Will the municipality be, say, reaching out to either property owners or business owners that are actually in the heritage district itself, where they might be of greatest interest? Residents near the district, things like that. So do we have any kind of plan for how we could hopefully get more engaged residents to provide their feedback?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a really good question. It probably something that I could have brought as part of one of the appendices. What we would do is work with our comms team on how best to engage. They have some great feedback on what's been working and what hasn't been working. Like obviously a mailed out notice isn't working great for some things unless it's a controversial thing in the first place. So we would hope to leverage things like social media, potentially going direct to people in the district or putting up some other kind of direct person-to-person approach, whether it's even engaging in a different meeting to say, by the way, this is coming in a month. I think those are really good tools, being that the district is a small area. It's not the entire municipality, so it's a lot easier to go more direct to the folks within that area.
Very good. Thank you. Hopefully we do get greater participation this time around. Will, yes, please go ahead.
I had a question, the buildings that are 3 stories along there. The owners typically aren't the store owners. So I guess you'd be able to research it and find out who owns the building. And then you send that to them, or do you send it to the people that live? Like those buildings, the 3-story buildings, 2 of those are rentals for housing. So the main floor is really making a decision for the upper 2 floors as to what's going to happen with the building. And that can cause probably a real chasm between the people that live there and the people that own the store, plus the person that owns the lot, right? So who do you reach then for those type of questions? Do you go to the people that live above, or the store owners, or the owner of the property?
So through you, Mr. Chair. So normally when we do a planning application, we mail to property owners. I think in this case, we probably wouldn't do a mail out because it would be quite a lot of letters that get mailed. We'd probably use a different tool, either advertising in the newspaper or using social media. Maybe go to different meetings where people are, whether it's like a community meeting or something like that, to let people know about this type of project. Folks that live in a 3-story building now, I don't know that I totally understand the question, but probably most of this isn't changing. So the only 2 blocks that are really proposed to change from what's currently allowed are the block with Leaky Canoe and Dam Pub and that strip, which is mostly restaurants, and the other side of the street, which is Market Square. So because the Market Square side only has 1 property owner, which is the municipality, I think it's probably of interest to a much larger group than the owner in this case. Probably everybody's pretty interested in what happens with that property. I know a lot of people have been interested when we did the demolition of Midas Mart and when some other things were going on. It was definitely on the radar of quite a few people, but definitely the property owners within the block with the Leaky Canoe block or Value Bar Buds and all of that that's over there are the ones that would be affected by not being able to add a story. However, right now it would be an interesting application to come before the committee to add a 3rd story or more to one of those buildings. So I'm not sure it's necessarily a significant change in practice because it would probably have to be proved that it's a good idea. But normally we would probably just go with whatever we have to do. And so that would just be either a mail out or a notice in the paper. And in this case, I think those are probably not our best tools. And so this would be above and beyond that. So instead of just doing a mail out, we would probably use other tools, electronic tools that we have, or going to a particular meeting or something like that. I'm trying to think of something that would line up with the meetings that we have, the schedule, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I would suspect with our comms team, we would be able to figure out something there. And certainly we'll make sure that downtown business owners are aware. I do know that quite a few of the buildings downtown are owned by people who don't occupy any of the space. They just rent it. So we don't want to just get them involved. We certainly want to go beyond just the owner.
Very good. Thank you for that. I'm all out of questions and comments. Does anybody else have anything else? No, so far so good. So just to remind everybody here where we're at, to expect going forward with regards to this process, there will be another public meeting, which would be 2 of 2, and that'll be spring of this year. Could be May or June, according to our report. And then in the summer, Heritage Advisory Committee, we will receive the final draft and we can provide our comments and feedback at that time. And then that will go to council late summer for a decision. And then after the appeal period is over, then the updated plan will go into effect. So we still have plenty of time to think about our suggestions to improve and enhance this in any way possible.
And we
Yes.
can submit those through to.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. Sorry, did you see anything? What is it? Oh, thumbs up. Cool. Yes, very good. Let me just get back to where I was here. Okay, very good. Derek, did we vote on this or do we just get a mover and seconder so far?
Just a mover and seconder so far, so we will need a vote.
Okay, thank you for helping me with that. All right, so I'm just gonna call the call the vote right now. So all in favor to accept this item for information. Very good. Thank you very much. So that's all good. Next, we are going to item 7C for those that are paying attention. It is item BR-125, heritage value, and this is it's a presentation, the Georgian Trail Bridge Replace and Heritage Value, which is structured BR-125. Can I just get a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor, please? Got David, got Nancy. Thank you very much. And off to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joel Saunders, and I'm the project manager for infrastructure here at the municipality of Meaford. And I'm here today because we have a project to replace a bridge on the Georgian Trail. And during the planning phase of the project, we have determined that it has some historical value or significance to our community. Although the bridge is outside of the Heritage District and your terms of reference for this committee, you have all, being part of this committee, have shown a desire to help the municipality understand and protect our history. And we appreciate hearing your feedback on the options available to the municipality with the replacement of this bridge. We are currently underway with an environmental assessment to help us understand the preferred option for the structure. And I do encourage you to submit any comments or questions through the EA process, the environmental assessment process. The commenting period for the environmental assessment process will be ending on March 22nd. So please do submit your comments before March 22nd.
Very good.
What I hope you learn today is that where the bridge is, why it's necessary for replacement, what the historical significance is, the options available to us as well. Firstly, the bridge is called BR-125 or Structure 125. It is located on the Georgian Trail between Margaret Street and Edwin Street. It's illustrated on the map here. It's very close to Edwin Street. If you're driving down Edwin Street, you can fairly easily see the structure. This photo here is from on top of the structure looking towards Edwin Street. This would be a pedestrian or cyclist would see this as you're crossing. What I'd like to point out here is just a couple things. You can see the wooden railings. On the left-hand side, you will see part of the railing is falling away from the structure. And so there's ground that has moved and settled and eroded away from that left-hand side as well. The next couple of pictures we have are of the underside of the structure. These are showing the pilings and the buntings for the structure. What you see, the pilings are the vertical posts that are driven into the ground there. On the one side, you'll see that there is an entire row of the posts that is missing. Presumably in the past, they've been cut off at some point when they were damaged. On the other side, we'd have two rows of the piles. You can see that one of the caps to the piers is leaning and not fully seated on to the piles. And it's difficult to see in that picture, but you can also see that there is a wooden retaining structure behind each of those piles that have also been failing as well. One of the options for the bridge that has been identified is to not replace the structure and to reroute the Georgian Trail around the creek and onto Edwin Street, where there is another structure that crosses the same creek. In the photo, you'll see where we intend or could possibly construct the rerouting of the trail. It's not a large chunk of the trail that needs to be rerouted, but this just illustrates where it is. This overhead view of the streets shows the alignment of the trail currently and possibly in the future if we realign the trail. We want to share this just because we don't know that it's public knowledge that a portion of the trail that's there now that the public uses is on private property, and that the trail has already been rerouted to Edmund Street. There's a curve to it that brings it to Edmund Street now. So there is already a misalignment with the trail as it is. In the future, if that property was to be developed, we could lose access to that portion that is on private property. If we were to replace the structure, what is being recommended at this time is that we replace it with a truss style bridge. And what you're seeing in the photos here are some examples of what a truss style bridge could look like for pedestrians in a multi-use trail. Lastly, we are taking comments through the environmental assessment process until March 22nd, and I'm happy to receive them, or anyone else on the project team here is happy to receive them. And if you have any questions today, I'll try and answer them as best I can as well.
Thank you, Joel. This is an interesting one. So I'll put it out to the committee for questions and comments now. David, yes, please.
Thank you, Joel. I'm David Roach. We've been communicating via email. I made some inquiries of Joel about the three options and the cost effectiveness of going through. I think it's important that we retain the heritage aspect of many buildings we have. This, in my opinion, this particular bridge it's definitely served its purpose. I would say it's even, dangerous, becoming dangerous within the next year. It's not particularly visible. I don't believe it really provides a lot of history to the community. And I think the cost of restoration, as you outlined, it really can't be restored. It would have to be completely replaced. The replacement values with the steel bridge are it's quite expensive. It's around numbers 400,000 versus doing a trail realignment, which was more or less the gravel that you pointed out in your map. It's about half the price. I don't know if I'm overstepping the bounds of the Heritage Committee here in my comments. If I am, stop me. But I think the rerouting of the trail is probably the best option. I think for the benefit of the community. I don't think it has an impact personally with the heritage that we're trying to retain within the community.
Very good. Thank you, David. Yeah, just providing a little bit of the financial background is really helpful as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Any questions, Nancy? Thank you.
Is there any possible repair of the existing bridge?
Yes, as part of the EA, one of the options is not to replace it, which would mean that we would have to do some sort of repairs to it as best we can, and then manage the structure to the end, ultimately to the end of its life when it's no longer maybe feasible. I believe the option one was pegged at about $30,000 and additional monitoring for the structure to ensure that we're keeping track of it to make sure it doesn't become a hazard, and that those repairs might buy us a year, maybe 2 years, but that is the opinion that we are receiving on the structure. Go ahead.
When was the bridge originally constructed? Do you know?
I believe it was either 1902 or 1912. It is in some of the reports that we provided you. I
Yeah,
just
1901.
1901.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
close. Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Nancy?
So it served us well for 125 years.
Yes.
I think if, if repairs were done to it, I think it would probably last longer than a year. But not being an engineer, I'm not exactly sure.
If I could comment on that, I walk the trail pretty much every day, so I've seen it a lot. It would probably have to be completely more or less rebuilt, all the pylons that are underneath, they'd all have to come out and be redone. If it's a repair, it'd be a fix. And I think once you get, having done a lot of renovations, restorations, once you get into it, they'll all end up, all those pylons will be removed, and then the 12 by 12 pillars, they'll be removed. It would end up being likely a complete reconstruction of wood, which in today's world doesn't make sense. And it's not a visual sight. You don't see this bridge as you walk by on it or on the trail. You don't appreciate what it was.
Good.
I just think that visually, and I recognize that you don't see it, but it's a lot more appealing than the new suggestion, the new bridge suggestion.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, and we appreciate hearing those comments, and I do encourage you, if having the wooden structure there is important, if you feel it's important, we appreciate hearing that, and receiving that comment through the AA process is valuable and much appreciated. I think the other opportunity you may have here is to maybe think or brainstorm potentially ideas about if there's a way that the committee sees that it could be commemorative or some sort of process to document the site in the future, or the whole Georgian Trail and its whole.
Yes, Dave.
I was gonna suggest something like through our, not the awards, but the sign, what's the word?
The plaques?
Plaque,
Yes.
thank you, plaque. We could have like a plaque that, here's, where's the bridge from, and maybe, have a photograph of what it would have looked like originally, something. So commemorative plaque.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And that sort of leads into, I guess my question and comment is that because this bridge is not on Meaford's Heritage Register, A, do we believe that it should be? And B, are there any other bridges or structures like this that would fall into the same sort of catchment basin where we'd be looking at something that does have, more or less significant historical value in terms of its construction and architecture that we should be aware of to recognize it certainly before it gets to the point of disrepair where it needs to be completely taken down. Yeah, just get a response first. Thank you.
That's a great question. I'm not sure if there's anything we're doing. We're certainly not doing anything right now to proactively identify what those structures are. What happens is when we come to a bridge that is in need of replacement, as part of our regular inspections, we determine these things. Part of the process is to have an initial review by the engineering team to decide if the structure potentially could have historical significance. There's a screening process. I believe it is if the bridge is over 50 years, they do the screening process and they look at the structure, and that is how we got into the cultural heritage evaluation report for the current structure, to determine, because it was addressed that it could have significance. So that is what triggered the heritage impact assessment and being here, quite frankly, today. So it is part of the process that we get into when we are replacing a bridge, but it is not something that we're proactively looking at to protect bridges moving forward.
Good. Thank you for that. Will, yes.
I had a question that, if you just repair that bridge, across the street, is there an application to build something there right now?
Not that we're aware of.
So, perhaps rather than spending a fair amount of money on it, if you could just repair it for what you would consider maybe a decade or something like that. And then we could look at it again, because in that time frame, maybe across the street, there would be an actual planning application. And it's probably going to be housing rather than any other form of, yeah, any other form that would take it, wouldn't be any more commercial, which is what it was before. It was the wood plant, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah. So it's probably not going to be commercial anymore. It would probably be residential. And at that time, we'd have a look at it again rather than spending a pile of money on it to fix it.
Thanks a lot.
That's my question.
Okay, and do you understand the question? To get just a response from staff? Well, what was the specific question again? I'm sorry.
To say, repair it to the point where we know it's gonna be good for about a decade. And then we could look at it again, because at that point in time, there may be a building permit on the property that used to be the wood plant. And then we could look at whether it's worth spending money then or not.
Okay, so the question is, it's a good comment. I just don't know what the question was. Will, I'm sorry, I don't follow.
It's not really a question. It's just my feeling.
Oh, okay,
It was just my feeling as to what we should do with that.
I see. Okay, I understand now. Thank you. David, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna comment two things about, one being the pathway that goes across the private land right now is blocked with concrete barriers. So that pathway, for all intents and purposes, has been blocked from, I mean, public can still walk around the concrete blocks, but the traffic pattern now goes through down to Aiken and therefore does not continue on a straight line as the rail line was originally. The other thing is that the approximate cost to do the maintenance of the existing bridge is about $30,000, and you're not going to get a decade out of it for $30,000. So it's a $30,000 one year is what I've read expenditure that may be considered a waste of $30,000. And I don't know if it would be that. I'm not a contractor, so.
Yeah,
So,
and that was,
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for that. And so Joel, maybe you could help us with this because the financial information, unless I missed it, I'm sorry, but could you just, and for those that are listening that may not have that information, could you, to the best of your ability, tell us what it would, so $30,000 to sort of repair it, that'll buy us a little bit of time versus, oh, it says, I need to do an update on my computer. These pop-ups keep coming up, versus removing and replacing, and then removing the bridge and then rerouting the trail. What kind of cost differences we'll be looking at for those three options?
Yeah, and I apologize. I should have provided you a link to our website where the remaining environmental assessment information is available there that describes the three options fully. And they talk about the costs and the impacts and the pros and cons of each. Option one, I believe, is the $30,000 rehabilitation to just get the bridge to the next year, and then perhaps there's more money being spent, a little trickling out to keep it moving. Option two, I believe, is rerouting of the structure And that is at a cost, $204,000 is the estimate.
Okay.
Option 3 is replacement with something that is suggested as the truss bridge, and I believe it was 380,000. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That information helps quite a bit. And I assume with the relocation, a lot of the cost is really just the removing the existing bridge as is. Okay, so that's and thank you. I'll make sure to go on the site to read that link to get more information on there. Okay. Yes, Nancy, thank you.
I think it would be good, like, for me to go and see it, to walk the land. It's hard when you're just kind of trying to visualize this in my mind. Were there other options of building or just the truss bridge that you looked at? Or was there other either cheaper or aesthetically different bridges that you looked at?
We've asked the engineers to consider multiple options. I think some of the options will be quickly perhaps disregarded or based on their strong knowledge of it being appropriate or not. There are other options potentially available for the structure if you do have something in mind that you'd prefer to see that we can hear about. The truss option is a very common solution for these sorts of pedestrian multi-trail use walkways that is very efficient. One of the options that we talked about is a steel culvert. There are challenges with steel culverts. The structure, I believe, has a span of 3.5 meters. It is difficult to put a culvert in that is big enough to handle the capacity of the creek at that location. And it has impacts to the surrounding area. If you were to put in a culvert that size, you're going to have to elevate the trail to fit the culvert underneath of it. You then have to have grading to the sides of the culvert as well to ensure that they're smooth. And if you can't do the grading because of property limits or other limitations, you're into constructing retaining walls as well. So it's not necessarily a great option for the municipality as an example.
Do you have a follow-up, Nancy?
I just have one other question. Does the 400,000 include demolition of the current structure?
Yes.
And how long would it take? How long would it be out of commission? The bridge?
Yes, the cost for replacement of the structure would include removal of the old structure. As far as the construction, it would be completed in one construction season. So we're talking about probably starting in July and ending into the fall. Because we're working in the water, there may actually be water restriction or conditions about when we can work in the water or around the water. And so they'll have to be respected. And that's usually, I believe, July 15th to about September 15th. So it's going to be one season. Could be 4 months, maybe less.
Will, yes.
Doesn't that water go under Denmark Street? So it's already going through a pipe. So I don't understand why a pipe wouldn't be large enough there, but large enough where you're gonna be replacing it, but it's large enough to go under the road. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Is that if you have a pylon or sewage pipe, I'll call it, that's say 2.5 feet around. If it's 2.5 feet around under Denmark, why does it have to be bigger than that where you're repairing it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Is there more water all of a sudden coming down that river?
My apologies, I'm not quite following where it crosses Denmark, but I do know that the the creek that the bridge conveys over is coming down essentially the hill from up above, from that Tim Hortons area, comes down the hill there, and it goes underneath Edwin Street, and the Edwin Street structure is quite large. It then goes under the trail, and I believe it eventually crosses under Margaret, I believe, and the next street over, and eventually outlets near the old there was a Knight factory where the Skydove development is currently being constructed or potentially constructed.
Thank you. Dave?
If I could just help, Joel, the conduit that's under Denmark Street where the creek goes through,
Yeah.
it's not 3 feet, it's more like about 8 feet around. It's a huge culvert, right? And if you see it right now, it needs to be 8 feet. It is full. It is.
Yeah.
The other part is where the bridge is now. It's on a bend. So as the water comes under Aiken Street, it's bending right at the existing bridge. So
Yeah, I looked at.
it is, yeah.
Denmark here. Where I am now.
Just don't forget your microphone there, Will.
Yeah, I looked at the building at Denmark where it's a creek that goes under. And that's how I know it went under the road there. So that's 8 feet around at that point. So you can't put one, or you're not talking about putting one that's 8 feet around where you're talking about now?
At the structure on the Georgia Trail that we're speaking about now, 125, I can say that I think we have evidence at the site that the current structure isn't wide enough as it is, and that we know that the Conservation Authority frowns on us changing the hydraulic capacity of a water crossing. I know they probably wouldn't be supportive of us narrowing the channel to try and force the water through. I'm not sure if that helps, but those are reasons why we do try to match the hydraulic capacity, or in some cases trying to increase it. We don't want to cause flooding either upstream or downstream of the structure as a result of the work.
Makes perfect sense. Did you have follow-up, Will, or is that good? Okay, excellent. It's a very good discussion. I'll put it out last call for comments or questions on this. Okay, Joel, thank you very much. That's been very helpful. Appreciate your time with that. And so we do have that on the floor right now, and let me just get back to my agenda where we're at here. Okay, so I'm gonna call the question. So to accept this item for information, all in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. Excellent. And so for the last item here, for items for information, this is item 7D. This is the Public Art Master Plan Student Project, and this is a pretty exciting one. Council had a chance to look at this at our last council meeting, and I'll toss it over to Denise to fill us in on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for saying that it's an exciting project. I'm pretty excited. I'm also a little frightened because it's going to be wrapping up super fast. In the school world, things move very quickly, as you know, where in our world, it's usually months, years for projects to happen. So this project is being led by 3 students in a master's program, the same program I took, Rural Planning and Development at University of Guelph. They chose to do this project for us. It was one of the projects we put in as a potential one that students could do for us. And what they're going to be doing is helping us with a master plan, which would give us that framework of when and how and what type of public art we would choose to install or receive, maintain, et cetera. So this would allow us to be able to say yes or no to art donations or purchase art, where should it go? How are we going to maintain and decommission art if it ever needs to be, and those kinds of things. And these are all things that we don't have policies around right now. So it, of course, has to be a one-off. And this probably explains why we don't have a lot of public art in the municipality right now. We see this as a great opportunity to help us have more public art because we think it's great for community spaces. And so this project, it has a turnaround time of the end of March. So what I'm asking of you guys today is if you would love to please help me out by filling out the survey if you have any thoughts about public art. We want to make sure art respects our conservation district. We want to make sure that it's thoughtful and goes in the right locations. There's a link in the in this report to the survey. And if anyone doesn't have access to the link, I also can just give you the address or email it to if you're having a hard time with that link. I just clicked it and it was still working. It shows that I already did the survey though, so I can't click it again. It's a series of questions that the student have about what our expectations and desires are about public art in the community. One of the students actually came to Meaford just a couple of weeks ago, interviewed some staff, and did a tour of some of our buildings and facilities, parks, et cetera. And they've been working with a bunch of other interviews virtually with staff as well. And, you know, if the time had allowed, we could have had them come and chat directly with you, but of course it's such a quick turnaround for their end of their semester. So they'll be presenting their initial findings at the end of the month on March 31st to their class as their major project. And then the report would be a 20-30 page report that they give back with their plan to council in a draft form that council can then have the ability to use or update or et cetera, add on to. And hopefully we get some good feedback on the survey. The first couple hours the survey was out, it already had a dozen or so responses. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we'd love to have committee members also fill it out and tell your friends about it, et cetera.
That's right. Spread the word. Questions or comments for the committee here? No? Okay, well, let's think about it. We'll get our comments in with the survey as soon as we can. So if we don't have any questions or comments, we'll just call the vote to accept this item. All in favor? Oh, sorry, we don't have, sorry, yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
I could feel you looking at me, so I knew I was forgetting something. Could I just get a mover and seconder for this item, please? David and Nancy, thank you very much. Okay, now I will call the question. All in favor of accepting this? Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on. Get back to my spot here. All right, we are on number 8 for the agenda, which is committee inquiries. Do we have any inquiries from the committee today? Will, yes, go ahead, please.
The dates for the next meetings.
Yeah, the May 13th is the date for the next meeting.
And the one after that?
I don't have that listed. I don't know if Denise or Derek has that available.
Okay, so on May 13th, we'll know where the next one is.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's great. Any other committee inquiries? No, yeah, Nancy, go
I'm
ahead.
wondering if we need more members on the committee? If there's any move afoot to solicit volunteers to participate in the meetings?
Very good question, and maybe I'll ask Denise for your comments on that if you have any thoughts.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we have one vacancy on the committee, official vacancy where someone resigned. And I don't know if, I think this committee's term ends in December or thereafter this year with the council term. So we were struggling a little bit to figure out whether we should put out a call for a member replacement or if we just wait it out. And I don't think we ever got to an answer for sure. I think we were seeing how we did with quorum. And we also have a member that hasn't been here to very many meetings. So that also adds some challenges. I'm not sure if everybody that's originally signed up is still available. And that may also pose an existing challenge for the next few months.
Okay, so I guess the answer is we don't know just yet, but we can we can discuss that and see if we can find a solution going forward. Okay, very good. And thank you for asking that question. That's it for inquiries. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have two inquiries. One is to do with the CHO, the Community Heritage Organization. Just a question if we have continued a membership with them. We are. There is a conference in Hamilton coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, to David's question. So, yes, we are, and I'm looking around to see if anyone's like nodding or anything. We do an annual membership and it covers the whole municipality, so all the members. So I'm getting a nod, so that should be correct. So then you're still a member. And so, yes, that would be able to get us the member rate at the conference. I think we only had budget for every other year to have two members of the committee go to the conference. I can't remember if we put even one member could go. I was planning on attending this year. Depending on when we recruit our new planner, if they feel really strongly about it, then, or they're really interested in heritage, I would send them too. Depending on that person. And so, because I'm not sure if the committee is aware, but Michael Kelly, who was on one of our resources, has left us and on to other places. So we have a vacancy right now. So I think we had a staff person could go every year, and then the committee members, we'd have one a year, but I'm just not remember if it's every other. So I'll get back to you on whether or not we have availability, and we could do a lottery again. But yes, we are a member, so you should still be able to access resources with the CHO.
Thank you for that. You had a second question, David?
And yes, second question is through the National Trust organization, there was a comment that the Ontario, I've forgotten the words, the government Parks Department is no longer going to be supporting the Canadian Register for heritage properties, and have asked us, or as individuals or as members, to let it be known that we would like to continue having a Canadian Register. And just wondering if there's any comments on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So David is really excited about this because he's jumped ahead to 9B, which I think it's David who kind of reminded us about how this has been going. I was aware of this matter, but helped us find out about this article specifically, and I have seen a couple of other articles since then. So the Canadian Register of Historic Places is slotted for decommissioning, which has a bunch of resources within it about heritage sites across Canada. Meaford specifically doesn't have any within its jurisdiction that are registered on this site. But it is I think Parks Canada saw this resource as being a bit archaic, and instead of replacing it, I think the software that it runs on, it's already having a lot of problems. I was on it not that long ago when this came out, that to see what was going on the site, and it's having a hard time loading and populating pages now, or using the search feature. So I can see why they want to decommission it. There is a move by some of the heritage organizations to request an inventory of all the products on there, because there is no other place where they live. So there is no other registry in a library form, et cetera. And so I think there are heritage resources out there trying to, like, organizations. So this particular one is the National Trust for Canadian, for Canada. And they are looking to get some traction on preserving this site. Another article that I read recently was just looking at, funding resources to do the same thing, where it could be taken over by a different conservation body to host the data. I think the concern is that the data might be lost. Some of the smaller municipalities have hosted their data on this site, so they don't have a separate place, and they just don't want to lose what's been built. I don't have a specific comment otherwise. I think it's certainly something that, the committee could make recommendations to council to support this being rebuilt or preserved. That's certainly what some of the other articles I've read have suggested, that either heritage committees or conservation bodies support it being rebuilt in a new form. Because I suspect that, yeah, the platform it's run on is probably no longer being supported. The software isn't being supported, which is why it's starting to fail. And they need to rebuild it, which may be a significant cost. And I can see that definitely some of the government levels are looking at cutting costs on things they don't see as important. Others may feel differently about this particular resource. It has quite a few things across Canada on it.
Very good. And thank you for bringing that up. So it gives us a head start when we get to 9B. All good. So that's okay. No, it's great. It's great. Good discussions to be had. So we'll move on to item 9 on our agenda, which is communications. And I'll just read our text here. The committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with members of the committee, the public can send an email to clerk@meaford.ca. When emails are received to this email address, they will be compiled into a correspondence list, which will then be distributed to the committee members prior to the meeting. The cover sheet of this list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send their thoughts and comments. And so we have item 9A, which is the CHO News Winter 2026 newsletter. Does anybody have anything they want to mention about this at all? There is one thing that I do want to mention on that, and that I think is page 4. I'm just going to get to my notes here, so bear with me. Yeah, page 4. So the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, and I mentioned this previously when we were talking about adaptive reuse of heritage buildings. They have a heritage helping housing grant. And this is a new provincial program. And sort of the idea is to match funding to help convert underutilized heritage buildings into housing units, which is great. And some of the key benefits of this, it's a $10 million per year matching grant program. And the grant will cover half of the cost of the housing focused revitalization up to $100,000, with half the funds payable up front. And so this is really great. Now, they did ask if municipalities would like to support it. However, I think it's like tomorrow is the deadline for that. March 13th, so Friday, to get your resolutions passed and letters sent out. So obviously, as a municipality, we don't have enough time for council to pass a resolution for that. But in any case, if anybody wanted to send in a letter, they could just email info@acontario.ca. And of course, that is for the Heritage Helping Housing Grant. So I just thought that was a really interesting article, and credit to you, David. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, and you're a great resource for finding that. Okay, so let me just skip to here. And of course, Derek, we don't, okay, I just want to make sure. It's great, thank you, I thought so. And so item 9B on communications, if anybody wants to talk about this, again, this is what we just briefly talked about, was the National Trust for Canada article. It's the Canadian Register of Historic Places to be shut down. And of course, I think everybody here at the table agrees that this could be, a significant loss for heritage preservation in Canada. So hopefully another group or body ends up picking it up and modernizing it a little bit, because it would be a shame for Canada to lose this national heritage database. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this at all? No? Okay, wonderful. So we're at the end of our agenda today, folks. The date of the next meeting is May 13th, 2026. And with that said, I wish everybody a good day, and thanks for being here.